Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, we continue with our lesson and exploring our knowledge and expanding our knowledge on verbs. So we will start with the most fundamental verb, which is a triliteral. If you go to the previous lesson, triliteral pure form. And if you remember, we said that's fa'ala. Generally, that's the pattern for that. So, and then you can see now what the verb we're going to take here is kataba, which means to write. And I've set up the chart such that I've got all the cases here. So you need to take these down in your own notes and then dwell over them. But I set the table up already to speed up, to shorten the video recording time and to give you all the necessary information. But inshallah, I'll go through all of that. Now, why this verb is important is because if you go to the dictionary, and let's say you're looking for the word katib, right? The word is, let's say, katibun. Now, that's a writer. And how do we know that? Because we learn patterns as we go forward. And that's from the pattern of fa'ilun, which is actually a doer, right? So Arabic, verbs need which they can be called it's called fa'il in the Arabic language. So that's the doer of the verb, right? The subject as well, it can be called, but that's in plain terms, it's the doer, the one who's doing the action. So fa'ilun, katibun. Now you know it's on the fa, ain, lam kalima. You know how they're coming. So you can identify the fa is the kaf here, the ain is the ta here, and the lam is the ba here. And so therefore from this you can make the pattern fa'ala as kataba. And you can find out, okay, so this is actually coming from the root verb kataba. So in the way the Arabic dictionaries are set up is you would actually, to look for the word katib, you're going to go to the verb with kataba. So you're going to go to the section of kaf and then find ta next to it and then ba. And that's how the dictionary works. And that's why this past tense verb is the most important, because it opens the door for a person to now go and expand their vocabulary independently, inshallah, through the dictionary. Okay, so that's one thing. Next thing, so I've written here kataba here, which is the third person. You can see here, this is the third person case we're looking at, masculine and singular, right? And in that form, it's written as kataba. This is the purest form here that we're looking at. And the meaning here is he wrote, right? This past tense, so he wrote. Again, third person masculine singular means he, and he wrote. And the subject, so a verb needs a subject. But the way it works is sometimes the subject is brought hidden or implied. And here in this verb, the subject is implied. There is nothing that tells you in this verb what the subject is. So it's actually completely not included in the form. It's excluded in the form, but it's totally hidden, right? It's not evident, but it's translated as he wrote. We know through the form that it's the third person masculine singular form, so the translation would be he wrote. So this column here that I've got is for the where I'm going to identify the subject, how it's shown in the verb, and in cases where it's hidden, then we'll just leave that blank. So such as the case here, so I'm just going to put a dash line here and say it's hidden in this verb. Next term now, so we go to the second term, which is the dual term. So you will see the transformations now, and the dual term is kataba. And I will talk about what we're adding here. So if you notice, we have added an alif, right? So we have added an alif here, so which is this in the verb that's added right here, and that adds the that makes this that represents the file, the subject. And so you can see how from kataba the verb transforms into kataba with this addition of the alif at the end, and that signifies now that this is the dual form, and the way you translate is they, two men, wrote, right? Two men is of course implied here because of the verb. So if you're referring to two men in third person form who are masculine, then you would write that as kataba. So now let's go to the next form here, which is the plural. Again, third person, masculine, plural, and that's shown as katabu. Okay, so we're going to write that here, katabu. Okay, and now you can see what is added here is in writing, it's actually, in essence, it's really the wow, but the way it's written in the Arabic, the alif is written after that. So this is what's added additionally here in the signs, right? So, and that's now when you see that added to kataba, that's now referring to more than two men. So they wrote again, but more than two men. So whenever you, so now you're actually getting to see, you can replace that form with any other verb such as nasara, nasara, nasaru, and you would know whether it's third person, and it's masculine, and it's plural. Okay, so next we move into the next word here, which is we're going to the feminine form and singular. So now I'm just going to give you the table. You understand the pattern, you have the translation, and I'll just go through that. Is katabat. And pay attention to the additional letters that are coming through here. So in this case now, what have we added here is the ta. The ta here additional, it signifies a subject that is a feminine, singular, third person, and translation is she wrote. Okay? Next, we go into the feminine and dual case now. And feminine dual is going to be katabata. Okay, and what you see here, there is the additional letters are ta and alif. Okay, and that makes it katabata. Okay, now let's go through that here. So I'm just identifying the additional letters that are signifying the subject here. Okay, and the translation here we have is they, two women, wrote. Next we look at the plural case, and in the plural case we find that it's different term. It's katabna. And the additional letter here is, you can see it, is noon that we added. Because the rest of the letter you can see is there kaf, ta, ba, and then the noon is what's added. And that signifies that it's plural, so more than two women wrote. So you'd say they wrote, so katabna. Okay, now we go into the next second person discussion, right? So now we're going into second person. Again, we begin with masculine here and singular, and now it's someone who you're addressing, someone that's in front of you. Third person is absent, second person is the one that you're speaking with. So this is now katabta. So that is katabta. And the additional letter used here is ta. Okay? And that means you, one person, man, you wrote, masculine. Okay, we now move to the next term. So this is going to be the dual term that we will write, and that is going to be katabtuma. Okay, and the addition here is tuma. And that signifies two men. So you, two men, wrote. Okay, so this you can see here, and what I'm adding here is what you would add to any verb. That's a past tense verb. Like I was giving you an example of nasara. So at the top here, if you had to have nasara in the singular term for the third person, then for two people, two men, it'll become nasara, and you'll add an alif to that. So, but you'll see more and more examples of that as we work through, inshallah, but I want to give you at least the first one here. So you have a table, and now it's pretty mathematical, and you can sub in other verbs to it. And finally, for the plural case, it's going to be katabtum. So it's katabtum. And so for that one, actually, let me rewrite this one so it's a little bit cleaner. Katabtum. And the additional letters here are tum. Means you, more than three men, three or more. So more than two or three or more men wrote. Okay, so now we move to the next area here. The next term is singular. So again, now we're moving into the feminine and singular, still second person. And that turns out to be katabti. By the way, it's important that you memorize these terms. You'll have to memorize them, and then you will see, because it's sort of a pattern, then it'll be easy for you to recognize the verbs. There is no alternate. Generally, this is an area of where the memory starts to come into the use of memory comes into the Arabic language. And the additional letter here that signifies the subject is the ta with the kasra, so ti. And you can, pay attention to this. You can see ta with the fatha was the singular masculine second person subject, and ta with the kasra is feminine here. And this allows, when you see that katabti, that means you, one woman, wrote. Okay, let's take the dual case. And the dual case is going to be, so it was katabti, so it's going to be katabtuma. So you can see that katabtuma, and that's the additional letter here is tuma. Again, the word the word letters that signify that. And that same, you can see there's a commonality here between the dual of the masculine and dual of the feminine. Okay? So that's important to notice there as well. So that's a common term. And here that means you, two women, wrote. Next we get into the plural. And the plural for this one is katabtunna. Oops. Change the color here. So it's katabtunna. Okay, and the addition here is tunna. And again, when I say addition, notice the pure form, which is the third person masculine singular, kataba, the first term, and the rest of them are in reference to that, the additions that are happening. And this one here means you, three or more women, wrote. Okay, now we go into first person. So it's with the speaker, the mutakallim themselves, right? So here you say katab tu, first person singular. You say katab. Oops. Katab tu, and the addition here is the ta with a dhamma. Okay, and for dual, and so this is here singular, we just covered the plural too. We're on the first person, masculine, feminine, it's the same because the first person there is no distinction. Here you say I wrote. Now we're going to do dual and plural. So in this one there is no distinction. It's a common term for both, and that means, or the term that's used is katabna. Okay, katabna, and the addition here is the noon and alif. Okay, and means we, two or more people. When two or more people talking about themselves, then it's we wrote. So now you have it. Please memorize it. The sequence is in front of you. There's 14 terms here. 6 for third person, 6 for second person, 2 for first person. You have masculine, feminine, and then singular, dual, and plural. That's how it's laid out. And the best is, when we used to study, we had to memorize this for many verbs to get familiar with this. So it'd be kataba, 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 katabu, katabat, katabata, katabna, katabta, katabtuma, katabtum, katabti, katabtuma, katabtunna, katabtu, katabna. So find somebody in your home who can test you. Make sure you memorize it. Make sure you can tell them the translation, and also make sure you can tell them the case, like third person, whether it's masculine, singular. They should be able to test you. They should be able to read a word out of here, one of the verbs, and you should be able to tell them all the associated attributes that I've listed here about that verb. And then you should be able to fluently read the whole 14 cases, in one go, sort of in a sequence. Okay, with that said, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to memorize all of this. Until next lesson, please practice this and absorb it. May Allah give us the ability. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.